I stared at the ceiling of my empty apartment, listening to the echo of my own breathing. It had been 3 weeks since the fire that consumed not just my home, but every physical reminder of the life I'd built over the past decade. Photo albums, the handcrafted furniture I'd collected, even the silly trinkets from my travels, all gone. The insurance would eventually come through, but some things could never be replaced. My phone buzzed on the bare counter of this temporary place. My brother Dean. I hesitated before answering. "Hey," I said, trying to sound stronger than I felt. "Sarah, Mom's worried sick. You haven't been answering her calls." Dean's voice carried that familiar tone, part concern, part judgment. "I know, I needed some time." "It's been 3 weeks. How much time do you need to get over a bunch of stuff?" I inhaled slowly. Dean had always been like this, practical to the point of coldness. While I built my business from scratch, working 18-hour days and reinvesting every penny, he'd coasted through life on our parents' support and his natural charm. "It wasn't just stuff, Dean. It was everything I owned. But you're fine, right? You weren't hurt. Your business is still running." His voice took on that dismissive edge I knew too well. "Other people deal with worse every day." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Thanks for the perspective. Look, I didn't call to argue. Mom wants you at Sunday dinner this week. She says you need family right now." The thought of sitting across from Dean at our parents' dining table, fielding questions about my plan going forward, made my stomach tighten. But I missed Mom. And Dad, despite his quiet nature, always had a way of making me feel like things would work out. "I'll be there," I said finally. "Great. Oh, and about that position at your company." I cut him off. "Dean, we talked about this. I don't think it's a good idea. Come on, Sarah. You know I'd be perfect for sales. I'm good with people. Being good with people and understanding our client base are different things." "This is just like you," he scoffed, "always thinking you're the only one who can do anything right. That's not fair. Whatever. I'll see you Sunday." The call ended, and I placed my phone down gently, though I wanted to throw it against the wall. Dean had been asking about a job at my tech consulting firm for months, despite having no relevant experience or education. His current job at a car dealership was beneath him, according to his latest complaints. Sunday arrived with grey skies and a persistent drizzle. I parked my car, thankfully not at home during the fire, in front of my parents' modest suburban house. Through the window, I could see Mom bustling around the dining room, probably fussing over place settings. Dad would be watching football in the den, pretending he wasn't counting the minutes until dinner. I barely made it to the front door before Mom pulled it open, enveloping me in a hug that smelled of home and safety. "Oh, honey," she whispered, holding me tight. "I've been so worried." "I'm okay, Mom," I said, realizing as I said it that it wasn't entirely a lie. I was surviving. Dad appeared in the hallway, his weathered face breaking into a gentle smile. "There she is," he said, folding me into his arms when Mom finally released me. "Where's the golden boy?" I asked, only half joking. Mom's expression faltered. "He'll be here soon. He's bringing Melissa." Melissa. Dean's girlfriend of 6 months, who somehow already had my parents wrapped around her finger. Just what I needed today. "Great," I said, forcing enthusiasm. "Can I help with anything?" Mom led me to the kitchen, where the familiar ritual of Sunday dinner preparation provided a welcome distraction. Chopping vegetables and stirring sauces, I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. This, at least, was unchanged. The front door opened with Dean's characteristic force. He never just entered a room, he announced himself. "Family!" His voice boomed. "The party can start now." Melissa giggled, her hand clasped in his as they entered the kitchen. She was pretty in that effortless way. Blonde hair falling in perfect waves, designer jeans, despite knowing this was a casual family dinner. "Sarah," she said, air kissing near my cheek. "I was just telling Dean how awful it must be." Losing all your things like that? I would just die if something happened to my shoe collection. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Dean clapped a hand on my shoulder. But she's fine. Tough as nails, my sister. Dinner started pleasantly enough. Mom had prepared all my favorites, her famous pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables with just the right amount of herbs. The conversation flowed around me, and I was content to listen, to be in this safe, familiar space, until Dean cleared his throat. "So, Sarah," he started, in that tone that always preceded something I wouldn't like. "I've been thinking more about that position at your company." Mom perked up. "What position, dear?" Before I could answer, Dean jumped in. "Sarah needs someone to help with client relations. I've been telling her I'd be perfect for it." "That would be wonderful," Mom exclaimed. "Both my children working together. Wouldn't that be nice, John?" Dad, ever perceptive, glanced between Dean and me. "If that's what they both want," he said carefully. "Actually," I began, "I don't currently have an opening in client relations." Dean's expression darkened. "You have that new contract with Novatech. You told Mom you'd need to expand your team." The fact that he'd been discussing my business with our mother didn't surprise me, but it still stung. "Yes, for technical consultants, people with software development experience." "I can learn," Dean insisted. "You always say your company values teachability over experience. For entry-level positions, yes, but this requires specialized knowledge." Melissa placed a manicured hand on Dean's arm. "You'd be amazing at it, babe. You picked up that new inventory system at the dealership in like a day." I took a long sip of water, trying to find the right words. "Dean, it's not personal, it's business." "It seems pretty personal to me," he shot back. "You've never thought I was good enough." The table fell silent. Mom looked distressed, Dad uncomfortable. This was exactly what I'd wanted to avoid. "That's not true," I said quietly. "I just don't think my company is the right fit for your skills." Dean pushed his plate away. "Right, because selling luxury cars to executives doesn't translate to working with executives in tech. It's different." "No, it's not," he interrupted, voice rising. "You just can't stand the thought of me succeeding in your precious world. You've always been like this, Sarah, ever since we were kids. If I showed any interest in something you were good at, you'd find a way to shut me out." The accusation hit like a physical blow. "That's not fair. Life isn't fair," he snapped. "Look at you. You lost your apartment and some stuff, and you're acting like your life is over. Meanwhile, I've been stuck in the same dead-end job for 3 years while you play big shot CEO. "Dean," Dad warned, but he was on a roll now. "You lost everything. Deal with it. Some of us never had anything to begin with." The room went still, Mom's eyes filled with tears. Dad's hand gripped his fork so tightly his knuckles went white. Melissa looked between Dean and me, clearly uncertain whether to support her boyfriend or recognize he'd crossed a line, and me. I felt something shift inside. Not anger, not hurt, but clarity. This moment, this dinner, was the perfect metaphor for our entire relationship. Dean minimizing my struggles while demanding I elevate his ambitions. The pattern was so clear now that I wondered how I'd never seen it before. I placed my napkin beside my plate and stood. "Thank you for dinner, Mom. It was delicious as always." I kissed her cheek, then my father's. "I should go, early meeting tomorrow." "Sarah, don't leave," Mom pleaded. "Dean didn't mean it." I looked at my brother, who was now staring at his plate, jaw clenched. "Yes, he did, and that's okay. We all say what we really mean sometimes." As I drove home to my empty apartment, I realized I wasn't sad anymore. The fire had taken my possessions, but this dinner had burned away something else, the illusion that I owed Dean anything. Not my success, not my connections, and certainly not a job he wasn't qualified for. For the first time since the fire, I felt something like freedom. Tomorrow I would start rebuilding, not just my home, but my boundaries, and I knew exactly where to begin. The following week was a blur of activity. The insurance company finally processed my claim, and I started looking for a new place, something more permanent than this sterile apartment. Work was hectic with the Novatech contract ramping up, but I welcomed the distraction. I hadn't spoken to Dean since that Sunday dinner, though Mom called daily with updates I didn't ask for and thinly veiled attempts to broker peace. "He feels terrible, Sarah," she insisted during our third such call. "You know how he gets when he feels threatened." I sighed, tucking the phone between my ear and shoulder as I reviewed applications for the new developer positions. "Mom, I'm not mad at him. I just need some space." "He lost his job," she blurted out. My fingers froze over the keyboard. "What? When?" "Yesterday. Something about missing targets and attitude problems." She paused. "He's devastated." The old me would have felt responsible somehow, would have wondered if our argument had affected his performance. The new me recognized this as his problem, not mine. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, meaning it. Despite everything, I didn't want Dean to struggle. "I'm sure he'll find something new quickly." "Sarah," Mum's voice took on that pleading quality I knew too well. "He has bills, and Melissa just moved in with him." I closed my eyes. "Mom, I can't hire him." "I'm not asking you to," she said quickly, though we both knew that's exactly what she was doing. "But maybe you could help him find something, with your connections." The irony wasn't lost on me. A week ago, Dean had told me to deal with losing everything. Now, he needed my help. "I'll think about it," I said finally, knowing it would be easier than arguing. "I have to go, Mum. Meeting in 5. That night, I scrolled through my professional contacts, considering who might be willing to interview Dean. The truth was, despite his attitude, he was good with people when he wanted to be. In the right environment, with the right motivation, he might actually thrive. I sent a few exploratory emails, nothing promising a job, just introducing Dean as my brother who was exploring new opportunities. It wasn't much, but it was something I could do without compromising my own boundaries. 3 days later, I stood in the empty space that would soon be my new home, a loft apartment in a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and huge windows. It was nothing like my previous place, and that felt right. New beginnings deserved new surroundings. My phone rang, an unknown number. Normally I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Hello? Sarah?" Dean's voice, uncharacteristically subdued. "Do you have a minute?" I moved toward one of the windows, watching people on the street below. "I'm in the middle of something, but sure. What's up?" "Mom said she told you about the job." "She did." I waited, curious to see where he would take this conversation. A long pause. "I'm sorry about what I said at dinner. I was out of line." The apology surprised me. Dean rarely admitted fault. "Thank you for saying that." "Yeah, well," he cleared his throat. "Listen, I know you're probably busy, but I was wondering if we could meet, just to talk. Maybe I could buy you coffee." I considered declining, inventing some pressing engagement, but curiosity won out. "Okay, when were you thinking?" "Today, if you're free around 4? "I can do 4:30, the cafe near my office." "Perfect. Thanks, Sarah. Really." The call ended, and I stood there, wondering what had prompted this sudden change in attitude. The job loss? Melissa? Or had my walking away from the dinner table somehow shifted our dynamic? At 4:25, I entered the cafe, an upscale place frequently populated by my employees and clients. I chose a table near the back, ordered my usual cappuccino, and waited. Dean arrived exactly on time, another surprise. He was dressed better than usual, a button-down shirt and khakis instead of his typical t-shirt and jeans. His hair was neatly combed, and he carried a leather portfolio I'd never seen before. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sliding into the chair across from me. "Can I get you anything?" I gestured to my cappuccino. "I'm good," he nodded, seemingly nervous. This was new territory, Dean uncomfortable while I remained composed. After ordering a black coffee, he turned to me. "So, first, I want to apologize again for what I said, about you losing everything. It was cruel, and I knew it when I said it." I studied him, trying to gauge his sincerity. "Why did you say it then?" He looked down at his hands. "Because I was jealous, have been jealous, for a long time." His eyes met mine. "You built something, Sarah, something real, and I've been drifting." The admission caught me off guard. Dean had always projected absolute confidence in his choices, dismissing my career as selling out or playing the corporate game. "I didn't know you felt that way," I said carefully. "I didn't want anyone to know." He smiled ruefully, "Especially not my successful big sister." The server brought his coffee, and Dean took a moment to compose himself. "Losing my job was actually the best thing that could have happened," he continued. "It forced me to face some hard truths." "Like what?" "Like the fact that I've been sabotaging myself, taking the easy road and then blaming everyone else when it didn't lead anywhere worthwhile." He took a sip of coffee. "And I've been especially unfair to you." I wasn't sure how to respond. This vulnerability from Dean was so unexpected that I found myself slightly suspicious. "Dean, if this is leading up to asking me for a job again—" "It's not," he interrupted, then paused. "Well, not exactly." There it was. "I'm not asking you to create a position for me," he continued, "but I did see that your company is hiring sales associates for the new contract." I nodded slowly. "We are. I want to apply. Properly." He opened the portfolio and pulled out a neatly printed resume. "I spent the last few days putting this together. It's not impressive, I know, but I did lead sales at the dealership for 2 years, and I closed more high-end deals than anyone else on the floor." I took the resume, genuinely curious. It was better than I expected, professionally formatted, focused on his actual achievements rather than inflated titles. Someone had helped him with this, and he'd been willing to accept that help. "The position requires technical knowledge, Dean." "I know. That's why I've been teaching myself the basics." He pulled out a notebook filled with what looked like study notes. "I've been watching tutorials online, reading about your industry. I know it's not the same as formal education, but I'm willing to learn, to really learn, not just fake it." I sat back, processing this new version of my brother. "Why my company specifically? There are other sales positions that wouldn't require such a steep learning curve." Dean looked me straight in the eye. "Because I want to be part of something meaningful, and because I want to make things right between us. Show you that I can be professional, that I can respect boundaries. By working together. By working for you," he corrected. "As my boss, not my sister, with all the same expectations and standards you'd have for any employee." I studied him, looking for signs of the old Dean, the entitlement, the manipulative charm, but all I saw was someone humbled, genuinely asking for a chance. "I can't promise anything," I said finally. "You'd have to interview like everyone else, and if you got the job, the first 3 months would be probationary." Relief flooded his face. "That's all I'm asking, a fair shot." "And what does Melissa think about this?" His expression shifted. "Melissa and I are taking a break. She wasn't exactly supportive when I lost the job. Turns out she was more interested in the lifestyle than the person. I wasn't entirely surprised, though I kept that thought to myself." "I'm sorry to hear that." He shrugged. "Don't be. It's part of the wake-up call I needed." He gathered his materials. "So how do I apply? Officially?" I pulled out a business card and wrote a name on the back. Email your resume to our HR director. Mention the sales associate position for the Novatech account. And Dean, I held his gaze. I won't interfere. Either way, this has to be your achievement, not mine. He nodded, taking the card carefully. I understand. And thank you, Sarah. Not just for this, but for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it. As we parted ways outside the cafe, I felt cautiously optimistic. People could change. I had, in the aftermath of the fire. Maybe Dean was having his own transformative moment. Over the next 2 weeks, I deliberately distanced myself from the hiring process. Our HR director, Vanessa, knew Dean was my brother, but had strict instructions to evaluate him objectively. I moved into my new loft and began the process of rebuilding my life. New furniture, new clothes, new routines. The insurance money covered the basics, and my company was doing well enough that I could gradually replace the higher-end items I'd lost. One evening, as I was arranging books on a new shelf, my phone rang. Vanessa. We've made decisions on the sales associates, she said without preamble, including your brother. My heart rate picked up. And? He impressed us, actually, came to the interview extremely prepared, knew our products, had researched the client, even had some innovative ideas about approaching different segments of their market. So, you're offering him the position? Yes, she confirmed. Probationary period, as discussed, of course, but the panel was unanimous. After thanking her and ending the call, I sat on my new couch, processing this development. Dean would be working for me. My brother, who a month ago had dismissed my losses with casual cruelty, would now be an employee of my company. It felt both surreal and strangely fitting, a new chapter in our complicated relationship. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. We'd be onboarding new hires, including Dean, and I wanted to prepare myself. As CEO, I usually left orientation to department heads, but today felt important enough to warrant my presence. At 9 sharp, the new employees gathered in our conference room, Dean among them, looking both nervous and excited in a new suit that actually fit him properly. When he saw me enter, his expression registered surprise, followed by determination. He straightened his posture subtly, as if reminding himself of our new professional relationship. Good morning, everyone, I began, scanning the eager faces around the table. I'm Sarah Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Tech Consulting. On behalf of our entire team, I want to welcome you all. As I delivered my standard welcome speech, I observed Dean listening intently, taking notes, nodding at key points. No sign of the dismissive attitude I'd grown accustomed to over the years. This was someone taking a fresh opportunity seriously. After the general introduction, I approached him as the group dispersed for departmental orientations. Congratulations, I said, extending my hand professionally. He shook it, a smile breaking across his face. Thank you for everything. This is just the beginning, I reminded him. The real work starts now. I know, and I'm ready. His confidence didn't sound hollow this time. I won't let you down, Ms. Mitchell. The formality made me smile. I believe you won't, Mr. Mitchell. As he followed the sales team toward their department, I felt an unexpected sense of pride. Not because I'd given him this chance, he'd earned it himself, but because we'd both found a way forward from that painful moment at the dinner table. You lost everything, deal with it, he'd said, and I had, just not in the way either of us had expected. The first month of Dean working at Mitchell Tech Consulting was a series of revelations. For both of us, I'd expected challenges, moments where our sibling dynamic would creep into our professional relationship, or where Dean's old habits would emerge under pressure. But he surprised me at every turn. In meetings, he was prepared, articulate, and respectful. With clients, he was charming without being overbearing, knowledgeable without being pretentious. He stayed late to study our products and systems, came in early to practice presentations, and actively sought feedback from senior team members. "Your brother is a natural," James, our head of sales, told me during our weekly executive meeting. That Novatech account manager who was giving us trouble, Dean had him laughing and signing the extended contract in under an hour. I nodded, pride mingling with lingering caution. "I'm glad he's working out." "Working out?" James laughed. "He's outperforming people who've been here for years. Whatever you're paying him, it's not enough." That evening, I found myself lingering in the office later than usual, reviewing quarterly reports and planning our next expansion phase. The company had grown from my one-woman consulting operation to a team of 45 in just 6 years. We'd survived the pandemic's economic turbulence and emerged stronger with a client list that now included several Fortune 500 companies. A soft knock at my open door pulled me from my thoughts. Dean stood there, jacket slung over his shoulder, tie loosened. "Working late?" he asked, "Just finishing up." I gestured to the chair across from me. "How was your day?" He sat down, placing a small paper bag on my desk. "Got you something? A desk-warming gift." I raised an eyebrow. "That's not a thing." "It is now." He pushed the bag toward me. "Open it." Inside was a small, handcrafted wooden box with intricate carvings along the edges. I ran my fingers over the pattern, something about it oddly familiar. "It reminded me of that jewelry box you had in high school," Dean explained. "The one Grandma gave you. I know you lost it in the fire." The thoughtfulness of the gesture caught me off guard. I'd mentioned that jewelry box exactly once in passing years ago. The fact that Dean remembered it, recognized its significance, and found something similar was unexpected. "Thank you," I said, genuinely touched. "It's beautiful." He shrugged, a hint of the old Dean in the casual gesture. "Small thing, but I wanted you to know I'm grateful for the chance." "You earned it," I reminded him. "I didn't do you any favors." "Not the job," he clarified. "The chance to be better, to fix things between us." I placed the box carefully on my desk. "Dean, we don't have to mix personal and professional. You're doing well here, that's what matters. But it's not all that matters." He leaned forward. "We're family, Sarah." That didn't stop when I walked through those office doors. I sighed, unsure how to navigate this blurring of boundaries. "It's been a long day. Maybe we should have dinner," he finished. "As siblings. No shop talk, just catching up." The offer hung between us. 6 weeks ago, the thought of a voluntary dinner with Dean would have made me invent an urgent deadline. Now I found myself considering it. "Okay," I said finally, "but not tonight. I really do need to finish these reports." "Tomorrow? That new Italian place on 4th Street?" I nodded. 7 o'clock. After Dean left, I sat looking at the wooden box, trying to reconcile this thoughtful gesture with the brother who had dismissed my pain so callously. People could change, I knew that. But could they change this much, this quickly? The next evening, I arrived at Bella Nota 10 minutes early, my usual punctuality a hard habit to break. The restaurant was elegant without being pretentious. White tablecloths and warm lighting creating an atmosphere of casual sophistication. I gave my name to the hostess, who led me to a quiet corner table. To my surprise, Dean was already there. "You're early," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. He smiled. "Figured I should beat you here at least once in my life." The waiter appeared with a bottle of wine, a Barolo I'd mentioned liking at a company event months ago. Another detail I hadn't expected Dean to remember. As we settled into conversation, I found myself relaxing. We talked about Mom and Dad, about my new apartment, about books we'd read recently. Dean had apparently developed a sudden interest in business leadership texts and carefully avoided any mention of Melissa or the dinner that had created the rift between us. Remember that summer at Lake Champlain? Dean asked as we shared a tiramisu. When Dad tried to teach us both to sail, I laughed, and nearly capsized us 3 times. How could I forget? You were so mad at him. I was mad at you, I corrected. You kept rocking the boat on purpose. Dean's smile turned wistful. I was jealous. Dad was always so impressed with you. Straight-A student, class president, the perfect daughter. I just wanted him to pay attention to me for once. The confession hung in the air between us. I took a sip of wine, considering my response. I didn't know you felt that way, I said finally. I always thought you were Dad's favorite. The son he always wanted, following in his footsteps with sports and cars. Dean shook his head. Are you kidding? He bragged about you to everyone. My daughter, the entrepreneur. My daughter, building her own company. I was just the kid selling cars, barely making ends meet. This perspective shift was disorienting. All those years I'd thought Dean had it easy, the golden boy who could do no wrong, and all that time he'd thought the same about me. We really didn't see things the same way, did we? I mused. Not even close. He refilled our wine glasses. Makes you wonder what else we got wrong about each other. The evening continued, past experiences re-examined through new lenses, old hurts addressed with surprising candor. By the time we left the restaurant, something had shifted between us. Not quite healed, but certainly changed. We should do this again, I said as we stood on the sidewalk, waiting for our respective ride shares. Dean nodded. Definitely. Next time my place, I've been teaching myself to cook. You? Cooking? I laughed. This I have to see. Hey, I'm full of surprises lately. His expression grew serious. Thanks for tonight, Sarah, for giving me a chance to explain myself. We're both learning, I acknowledged. See you at the office tomorrow, Mr. Mitchell. He grinned. Looking forward to it, Ms. Mitchell. The following weeks flew by in a whirlwind of client meetings, project deadlines, and company growth. Dean continued to excel, bringing in 2 new major accounts and developing a reputation for exceptional client management. We maintained our professional boundaries at work while gradually rebuilding our personal relationship outside office hours. Sunday dinners at our parents' house resumed, now with a new dynamic. Mom was overjoyed to have her children speaking again, though she remained blissfully unaware of the extent of our previous estrangement. Dad, more perceptive, occasionally caught my eye with a knowing look when Dean and I engaged in our now good-natured debates. Then came the Novatech annual gala, a prestigious event where tech companies showcased their innovations and networked with potential clients and partners. As our biggest client, Novatech had reserved a table for Mitchell Tech Consulting's executive team. I'd been looking forward to the event, even splurging on a new dress for the occasion. Midnight blue, elegantly cut, a symbol of my rebuilding life. Dean, as the account's lead sales associate, would also be attending, along with James and our CTO, Elise. The evening of the gala, I arrived early to ensure everything was in order. The venue, a renovated historic hotel in downtown Boston, sparkled with tasteful decorations and subtle lighting. Corporate logos projected on walls, waitstaff circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres, executives in formal attire, networking in small clusters. I was speaking with Novatech's CEO when I spotted Dean entering the ballroom. He looked different somehow, confident but not cocky, his tuxedo perfectly tailored, his posture relaxed but professional. Several people greeted him as he made his way through the crowd, and I noticed more than one admiring glance from women he passed. Your brother has been a tremendous asset, Marcus Chen, Novatech's CEO, commented, following my gaze. He has a remarkable ability to translate technical concepts for our non-technical stakeholders. I smiled. He's exceeded our expectations in many ways. You know, I have to admit, Marcus lowered his voice, when I first heard you'd hired your brother, I was concerned. Family businesses can be complicated. Mitchell Tech isn't a family business, I corrected automatically. Marcus chuckled. It is now, in a sense, but whatever you're doing, it's working. Our board has been impressed with the partnership. Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Sarah Mitchell, is that really you? I turned to find Richard Evans, founder of Evans Tech Solutions, and my former fiancé standing behind me. My stomach dropped. Richard and I had been engaged 3 years ago, until I discovered he'd been using our relationship to gain insider information about my clients and approach them with competing bids. Richard, I acknowledged coolly. I didn't know you were on the guest list. Last-minute addition, he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. We just acquired synthetic AI, so Novatech invited us as potential collaborators. He extended his hand to Marcus. Richard Evans, Evans Tech Solutions. Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Chen. Marcus shook his hand with polite reserve. Likewise, if you'll excuse me, I see our CTO trying to get my attention. Sarah, we'll continue our conversation later. As Marcus moved away, Richard stepped closer. You look amazing, Sarah. Success suits you. What do you want, Richard? I kept my voice low, professional, though my pulse had quickened with anger and old hurt. Can't an old friend say hello? His smile turned predatory. I've been following your company's growth. Very impressive, though I'm surprised you're still running things solo. Most founders would have brought in experienced leadership by now. The implication that I wasn't experienced enough to lead my own company stung exactly as he'd intended. My leadership team is more than capable, I replied evenly. Now, if you'll excuse me. I heard about the fire, he continued, ignoring my attempt to leave. Terrible thing. Lost everything, didn't you? Must have been devastating. The deliberate echo of Dean's words from that painful dinner made my chest tighten. Had Richard somehow heard about that argument? No, impossible. Just a cruel coincidence. I've rebuilt, I said simply. Better than before. Always the optimist. Richard sipped his champagne. But really, Sarah, at some point you might consider a strategic partnership. Evans Tech could absorb your client base, maintain your brand as a subsidiary. You'd have resources you can't access alone. My company isn't for sale, Richard. Everything's for sale at the right price, especially after a setback like yours. He leaned closer. Think about it. You'd have security, resources. No more scrambling after disasters like that fire. Before I could respond with the cutting remark forming on my lips, a hand appeared at my elbow. Sorry I'm late to the conversation, Dean said smoothly, standing beside me. Dean Mitchell, Sales Director at Mitchell Tech. He extended his hand to Richard with perfect professional courtesy. Richard's eyes narrowed slightly as he shook Dean's hand. Mitchell, any relation to our lovely Sarah here? Proud to say she's my sister, Dean replied, his smile unwavering, and my boss, which keeps me on my toes. Fascinating. Richard's gaze shifted between us. I didn't realize Sarah was bringing family into the business. How quaint. Dean's expression didn't falter. Actually, I had to interview 3 times and beat out 30 other candidates. Sarah runs a meritocracy, not a charity. I suppressed a smile at the perfect response. Richard, momentarily thrown off balance, recovered quickly. Well, isn't that charming? Tell me, Dean, has your sister mentioned our history? We were quite close once. Ancient history, I interjected. Dean, Marcus was looking for you earlier. Something about introducing you to their board chairman. Of course. Dean nodded. Richard, pleasure meeting you. I hope you enjoy the event. As Dean moved away, Richard's facade slipped. Family in the workplace. Rookie mistake, Sarah. When you're ready to talk seriously about your company's future, call me. My company's future is secure, I replied, finding strength in the truth of those words. And if I were considering a partnership, which I'm not, it certainly wouldn't be with someone who betrayed my trust once already. Richard's expression hardened. Still holding on to the past? I thought you were more pragmatic than that. Not holding on, I corrected. Learning from it. Goodbye, Richard. I walked away, heart pounding but head high. Making my way through the crowd, I found Dean in conversation with Marcus and several Novatech board members. He caught my eye, raising an eyebrow in silent question. I nodded slightly. I'm okay, and he returned his attention to the conversation without missing a beat. Later, as the formal dinner portion of the evening began, Dean took his assigned seat beside me at our table. "You all right?" he asked quietly as servers delivered the first course. "That guy seemed like bad news." "Ex-fiancé?" I explained briefly. "Ended badly. Business and personal lines got crossed." Dean nodded, understanding immediately. "Hence your rule about keeping business and personal separate." "Exactly. Well, for what it's worth, you handled him perfectly." He grinned. "And I enjoyed playing the protective little brother for once." I smiled despite myself. "You did step in at the right moment. Years of practice recognizing when someone needs backup." His expression grew serious. "I know I wasn't always there for you before, Sarah, but I am now, at work, outside of work, whatever you need." The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. For so long I'd seen Dean as competition, as a burden, as someone who took without giving back. Now he was offering support without conditions, acknowledging his past failures without excuses. "Thank you," I said simply, the words inadequate for the complicated emotions swirling beneath them. The evening progressed, speeches were made, awards presented. Mitchell Tech Consulting received recognition for innovative client solutions, and I accepted the award with a brief, polished speech that acknowledged the team effort behind our success. When I mentioned Dean's contribution to the Novatech relationship, genuine applause followed, and I felt a surge of pride watching him accept the recognition with humble grace. As the formal program concluded and the event shifted to networking and dancing, I found myself drawn into conversations with potential clients, industry peers, and technology journalists. Dean worked the room separately, occasionally catching my eye across the crowd with a subtle nod or smile. Around midnight, as the event began winding down, I stepped onto the terrace for a moment of quiet. The night air was cool but not uncomfortable, the city lights spread before me like a carpet of stars. "Quite a view," Dean said, joining me at the railing. "It is," I agreed. "Successful night." "Very." He loosened his bow tie slightly. "2 new potential clients, and the Novatech board chairman hinted at expanding our contract next quarter." I heard. "Well done." We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out at the city. "Remember what you said to me that night at dinner?" Dean asked suddenly. "We all say what we really mean sometimes." I nodded, recalling my parting words after his cruel comment. "I did mean it," he admitted, "but not in the way it came out. I wasn't dismissing what you lost. I was angry that you had something to lose in the first place." He turned to face me. "The fire was terrible, Sarah, but you built something that could burn. I hadn't built anything." The honesty of his words struck me. "You're building something now," I said quietly, "because you gave me the chance, even after what I said." "You earned the chance," I reminded him, "and you've more than justified the decision." Dean smiled. "The board chairman called me an integral part of Mitchell Tech's future. Never thought I'd hear words like that associated with me. Get used to it." I glanced at my watch. "It's late. We should both get some rest. Big presentation tomorrow." "Right." Dean straightened, professional mode re-engaged. 9 a.m., conference room B. I'll bring the market analysis reports." As we walked back inside, I felt a sense of completion, of a circle closing. The brother who had told me to deal with losing everything had become someone who helped me build something new, something better. And in his own way, he was building too. 6 months passed in a blur of achievements and growth. Mitchell Tech Consulting secured 3 major new clients, expanded our office space to accommodate 15 new hires, and Dean completed his probationary period with flying colors. My new loft apartment had finally become a home, filled with carefully chosen pieces that reflected who I was now, not who I'd been before the fire. Our family dynamics had shifted too. Sunday dinners were genuine occasions for connection rather than performances, and Dean and I had established Thursday night dinners, just the 2 of us. "You actually learned to cook," I'd marveled when he served a perfectly prepared risotto. "YouTube University," he'd replied with a grin. "Turns out I can follow instructions when I want to." At work, we maintained clear professional boundaries. He was Dean in private meetings, but Mr. Mitchell in front of other employees. I evaluated his performance by the same metrics as everyone else, and he respected the corporate hierarchy without question. Then came the opportunity that would test our new equilibrium. Novatech was expanding into European markets and wanted Mitchell Tech as their consulting partner for the transition. It was the biggest contract in our company's history and required someone to relocate to London for at least 6 months. I called an executive meeting with James, Elise, our CFO Michael, and Dean to discuss the logistics. "The contract is essentially guaranteed," I explained, "but they need someone on the ground in London from day one, not just for technical implementation, but for relationship building with their European leadership team." "How long are we talking?" James asked. "Minimum 6 months, possibly up to a year." "Who did you have in mind?" Elise asked. "Dean has the strongest relationship with Novatech's executive team," I replied, watching all eyes turn to him. "However, this would be a substantial promotion after less than a year with the company. I wanted to discuss it as a team before making any decisions." James nodded. "Dean's relationship with Novatech is definitely an asset, but running an international expansion is different from managing domestic accounts." Throughout this exchange, Dean remained silent, his expression professional but unreadable. "Dean," I said finally, "what are your thoughts?" He straightened in his chair. "I appreciate the consideration. The opportunity is exciting, and I believe I could successfully manage the relationship in London." He paused. "However, I recognize there are team members with more experience who might be better positioned to lead such a critical initiative." It was exactly the right response, acknowledging the opportunity while recognizing the legitimate concerns. "What if we considered a joint approach?" Elise suggested. "Dean manages the client relationship, while someone with more technical experience oversees the implementation specifics." By the end of the meeting, we'd reached a plan. Dean would relocate to London as the primary client liaison, partnered with Andrea Chen, our experienced project manager. After the others left, Dean stayed behind. "Well handled," I said once the door closed. "Thank you. I meant what I said about others possibly being more qualified." I studied him. 6 months ago, would you have said that, or would you have pushed for the position regardless? He considered the question seriously. 6 months ago, I would have seen it only as an opportunity for advancement, not considered whether I was the right person for the company's needs. He smiled slightly. "I've learned a lot since then. The thing is, Dean, you are the right person for this, but I need to know, are you prepared for this kind of responsibility, for relocating to another country for possibly a year?" "Professionally, yes. I believe I can deliver what's needed." His eyes met mine. "Personally, and it's a big step, but I don't have much holding me here outside of work and family." "Mom will hate it," I pointed out. He laughed. "True. She'll probably try to send me with frozen casseroles somehow." The next morning, Dean appeared in my office doorway, knocking lightly on the frame. "I'd like to accept the London position with one condition," he said, placing a folder on my desk. "What condition?" "That we establish clear metrics for success with quarterly reviews." If I'm not meeting expectations, you bring me home and replace me with no hard feelings. I hadn't expected such self-awareness. You're proposing your own performance plan. I am. He smiled slightly. I've learned that accountability matters. I want to succeed, but more importantly, I want the company to succeed. If those goals ever diverge, the company comes first. Inside the folder was a detailed proposal, success metrics, communication protocols, contingency plans. He'd stayed up preparing this, anticipating challenges and proposing solutions. This is impressive, I admitted. I had a good teacher. He paused. There's one other thing, personal, not professional. What's that? Thursday dinners. I'll miss them. The simple admission touched me. These dinners had become a highlight of my week too, a time when we could be just siblings, rebuilding a relationship I hadn't realized I'd missed. We'll figure something out, I promised. Video dinners, maybe. I extended my hand across the desk. Congratulations on your new position, Mr. Mitchell. He shook it firmly. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I won't let you down. 2 days before his scheduled flight to London, I invited Dean to my loft for a farewell dinner. I'd spent the afternoon cooking his favorites. My version of Mom's pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, and chocolate mousse cake from the bakery he loved. Dean arrived with wine in one hand and a small wrapped package in the other. Over dinner, our conversation flowed easily between professional matters and personal reminiscences. I'd come to value these moments, the comfortable silence of eating together, the shared memories, the gentle teasing that had lost its edge. Remember when you taught me to ride a bike? Dean asked as we moved to the couch with dessert. I laughed. You were so stubborn, refused to use training wheels because the neighbor boy didn't have them. I crashed into Mrs. Peterson's rose bushes how many times? At least 5. She started calling you Thorny that whole summer. Dean shook his head, smiling. You never gave up on me, though, even when Dad said to let me figure it out myself. You were determined, just needed some guidance to channel that determination properly. Story of my life, he acknowledged. Only took me 32 years to figure that out. London's going to be good for you, I said, professionally and personally. I know. He set his dessert plate aside. But I'll miss this. Us. The way things have become. Me too, I admitted. But it's not forever, and we've got video calls, emails. Dean handed me the package he'd brought. This is for you. I unwrapped it to find a small leather-bound photo album. Opening it, I discovered dozens of photos arranged chronologically. Me as a toddler with our parents, school graduations, college move-in day. How did you... I flipped through the pages in wonder. I thought all my photos were lost in the fire. They were, Dean confirmed. But I've been collecting copies from Mom and Dad, from your friends, from old social media accounts. It's not everything, but... It's amazing, I whispered, emotion tightening my throat. The thoughtfulness of the gift overwhelmed me. Turn to the last page, he instructed. There was a photo taken at the Nova Tech Gala, Dean and me on the terrace, both smiling genuinely, the city lights behind us. Marcus's wife took it, Dean explained. I thought it belonged in your new collection. New memories to go with the recovered old ones. I closed the book gently. Thank you, this is perfect. After that dinner, when I said those things about you losing everything, I never imagined we'd end up here, that we'd fix things between us. Me neither, I admitted. I want you to know something. His expression grew serious. No matter what happens in London, no matter where our careers go from here, you're my sister first. Always will be. Oh, and you're my brother, I replied, the words carrying a warmth they hadn't held for years. Always. The morning of Dean's departure arrived cold and clear. I'd insisted on driving him to the airport despite his protests about early meetings I'd miss. CEO privilege, I told him. I make my own schedule. At the international terminal, I pulled into the departure lane. "So," Dean said, looking at the entrance, "this is it." "For now," I corrected. "6 months isn't forever." He nodded. "Weekly video calls, both professional and personal. And I'm coming to visit in 2 months," I reminded him. We got out of the car, and I helped him with his luggage. At the curb, we faced each other awkwardly, neither quite sure how to say goodbye. "You've got this," I said finally. "All of it." "I know." His confidence didn't sound hollow anymore. "Thanks to you." "No," I shook my head. "You did this, Dean. I just opened a door. You walked through it and kept going." He smiled. "Maybe we both did something right for once." I hugged him tightly, not the formal, distant embrace we might have shared a year ago, but something real. "I'm proud of you," I whispered. "So proud." "That means more than you know." He pulled back, eyes bright. "I'll call when I land." As I drove to the office, I reflected on our journey. A fire that had taken my possessions but cleared the way for something new. A cruel comment at a dinner table that had somehow become the catalyst for healing old wounds. "You lost everything? Deal with it," he'd said. And I had. Just not in the way either of us had expected. In losing things, I'd gained something far more valuable, a real relationship with my brother. And in the process, we'd both found versions of ourselves we could be proud of. Sometimes, I realized, losing everything isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning.